Are you also putting the FBI on notice for not bringing, and the Department of Justice on notice for not bringing any charges?
And let me be very clear. Jim said this, but Jim's going to answer that question. The Oversight Committee, we are focused on the bank records moving forward. The Judiciary Committee is going to be focused on that, and Jim's going to answer that question.
No, we're not putting anybody on notice. We just want to get the truth. I mean, that's why we issued the 1,000-page report 2 weeks ago that talked about. So I've been in Congress a few years now. I've never seen anything like it. 14 agents come talk to us while we're in the minority about how political that place has become. Talking about the purging going. These are terms they use, not we. The purging going on, purging of agents, the pressure to categorize cases in a political fashion. The putting the threat tag label on moms and dads who show up at school board meetings. We know of over 24 parents who were investigated, no one charged. But think of the chilling impact that has. You show up at some parent's home, you talk to them because she's in the group Moms for Liberty, as an example. You talk to them. Think of the chilling impact that has on other parents. So that's what we're interested in getting to the bottom of. And the only way you can hold people accountable and hopefully stop the behavior is to present it to the country. That's what we got to do. So we're committed to doing it in an aggressive fashion, but in a way that's consistent with the Constitution.
Thank you. We know that the Department of Justice and FBI has been investigating Hunter Biden since 2018. How do you know that these claims that you are laying out in your remarks today and some of the examples that you have up here aren't claims that have already been fully investigated by those federal prosecutors?
Maybe they have. We don't know.
And can I follow up with the map that you were referring to? When was that PowerPoint from?
That PowerPoint was from what year? Do we know exactly? I think it's in your packet, but 2017.
So my follow-up there is, if this is from 2017, what is the connection to, the current energy crisis now, if that was years ago?
Are you real? I mean, Joe Biden says he's going to stand up to China. Joe Biden says he's going to rewrite our whole energy policy, America first. And he was a 10% equity owner in a company whose sole mission was to purchase liquefied natural gas from the United States and try to take over the natural gas industry in America through natural gas wholesalers and natural gas drillers. I mean, I don't think Joe Biden's been honest to the American people about that. And I think that's a question you all need to ask at the next White House press conference. We didn't know about your involvement in a Chinese energy company. Does that in any way, shape, or form impact your energy policy? And that's something that I think every American deserves answers to, especially at a time when we're faced with record high energy prices because of Biden's energy policy. Yes.
Will your committee call Hunter Biden or anybody in the Biden family to testify in an investigation, Secretary? Or
yeah, we would love to talk to people in the Biden family, specifically Hunter and Jim Biden. I think the most important thing for us right now is to get those bank records. I mean, we have 2 suspicious activity reports in hand now, not because of the Biden family and certainly not because of Janet Yellen at Treasury. These suspicious activity reports are very detailed. And these aren't from little banks like in my part of Kentucky. These are, Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan. So these suspicious activity reports, and I don't think from day one a lot of people in the media understand what a suspicious activity report is. Just so you know, suspicious activity reports were created after September the 11th as a way for the government to be able to track foreign transactions into American terror cells. Over time, it's expanded to include things like money laundering and other types of criminal activity. Because when in September 11th, remember, the banks knew that these terrorists were getting wire transfers from Saudi Arabia, but the FBI and the federal authorities didn't. So that was how these were created. Under President Bush, under President Obama, and under President Trump, any committee in Congress could have access to those suspicious activity reports. But when Joe Biden became president, he changed the rules. Now, does anyone here doubt my suspicion that he changed the rules because his son and possibly himself had 150 suspicious activity reports? Are we the only ones that find that odd that Joe Biden would change the rules when he became president? In fact, Maxine Waters had legislation to change the rules back. She didn't know why he changed the rules. And she had a bill, and part of the language in the bill was to override that rule and give Congress the access to those suspicious activity reports again. I actually voted for Maxine Waters' bill because that was in there, and I don't vote for a lot of Maxine Waters bills, so, yes.
Thanks, Congressman, for doing this. A question for both of you. I'm wondering if you might be able to confirm that your committees will be investigating Speaker Pelosi and the Department of Justice for their treatment of defendants jailed in connection with January 6th, a promise that potentially Speaker McCarthy made to the House Freedom Caucus earlier this week.
He's the Department of Justice guy.
We're focused on, you saw our report, well, maybe you didn't. I hope if you didn't, you take time to read it. We're focused on how political our Justice Department has become. It's not a question of if they are political, if they are. They're making decisions on a political basis. We're going to look at all that.
Pelosi and the treatment of
We're looking at
January 6th
We're looking
defendants
at
specifically.
umbrella of political operations at the Justice Department, all the way back to the very first whistleblower came to us over a year ago. About a year ago, I should say, regarding the school boards issue. So we're concerned about anything that is being done in a political fashion at the Justice Department. Because remember, you got to step back. It's supposed to be in this great country, the greatest country ever, it's supposed to be equal treatment under the law. And when you have a Justice Department that's not following that fundamental principle I think that sets our country apart from all others, that is a major problem.
Do you think the January 6th insurrectionists have been wrongly imprisoned?
I didn't say anything. All I said is we're going to look at the politics at the Justice Department based on the fact that we have had 14 different, actually more than 14 now, whistleblowers come talk to us. That's what we're going to focus on.
My last question is just what are the grounds
If we
to
can keep it
investigate?
about Hunter Biden, this is kind of a big deal, we think. If we can keep it about Hunter Biden, that would be great.
Some
Go.
I just wanted to piggyback, because she said it's for January 6th. Just what's your plan to do with the January 6th investigation? It seems like you guys
I think
also have
that's a
questions for
question,
the FBI.
I think that's a question for Kevin McCarthy. That, we're focused on a lot of investigations now. I've been very transparent with the media on it. That wasn't one of them, but yes.
Okay, so can you kind of preview how this is going to play out? So it sounds like your focus initially is going to be on these suspicious activity reports, which you endeavor to receive somehow. Is that going to be through potentially subpoenaing a bank? And then once you receive those, are you expecting a smoking gun from that, or is that going to lead to more avenues? And then finally, what deliverable are you expecting? Another report? Or is this do you see this terminating as some sort of referral? How do you see this playing out?
Well, obviously, with the two that we already have, they've opened.
How did you get those?
Well, we can't reveal our sources, but the two are on the internet, so you can dig and find them. They're out there, but we verified they're 100% factual.
And I'm not questioning that,
Right.
but if you got that from an individual, why would that individual have two? and
That's a
not-
great question. I'm glad you asked that question. Because again, I don't think a lot of people in the media and in Congress, for that matter, understand a suspicious activity report. Byron Donalds does. He's a financial expert. I've had the honor of being on a bank board. When you get a suspicious activity report, it flags every account that's had a transaction within a certain time period. Am I right, Byron? So the suspicious activity report that we have shows where Hunter Biden purchased whatever with an escort service. The escort service then paid the prostitute. Then the bank implies that the escort service is under suspicion for human trafficking. We see where the escort service is from, the prostitute's from. She's not from the United States. Again, I don't want this to be about the prostitute. Here's the thing: Hunter Biden isn't this innocent guy that's just got a bad rap because he had a drug problem. And the Republicans don't need to waste any time on Hunter Biden. We're not trying to prove Hunter Biden is a bad actor. He is. If anybody wants to disagree with that, then there's nothing we have to talk about. Our investigation is about Joe Biden. And we already have evidence that would point that Joe Biden was involved with Hunter Biden on his deal. So we want the bank records. And that's our focus. We're trying to stay focused on, was Joe Biden directly involved with Hunter Biden's business deals, and is he compromised? That's our investigation.
And so if you found that through the reports, what would be your deliverable? Another report, or would you refer those charges, or do you foresee this resulting in some sort of impeachment.
We will issue a report. We will hand over any potential criminal activity to the appropriate authorities, and that's what we do. We investigate.
No, we're a legislative body, so the liberals, we may need to change the disclosure laws. We may need to look at this investigation started because of the concern with big tech, FBI talking to big tech suppressing, throttling back information that we, the people, should have had access to when we're getting ready to make the most important decision we make as a country on who's going to lead us. That's where this starts. So do we need to change Section 230? It's all about the legislative purposes. Supreme Court's been clear. That's where we got to focus. And I would just argue fundamentally it's about the First Amendment, the idea that they were suppressing critical information that the country should have had access to. And they did it literally 15 days before. And do you tell me what in the report that Mr. Comer and the team has put together is Russian disinformation? That was all BS, and everyone knows it was BS, and frankly, should have known it at the time, and I think did know it at the time, but did it anyway. So that's the legislative purpose that we got to get to. So, but we don't know where that's going to go. That's what we're trying to do.
Mr. Comer. Some Republicans have questioned the timing of this. Why make this your very first visible order of business, investigating President Biden and his family?
If you look at the commitment to America, there were 4 tenets of that. The fourth was to hold this administration accountable. That's the job of the Oversight Committee. I know some in the media have said, well, this is what the Republicans, their whole sole focus is. This is the focus of the Oversight Committee. I know Kevin said the first legislation we're going to vote on is to repeal the 87,000 IRS agents, to reduce the size of government, because that's tackling inflation. We have inflation because the Democrats have spent too much money. So we have a legislative agenda, and we're focused on a lot of things in Congress. But from the Oversight Committee, we're in charge of investigations. We feel that this is of the utmost importance.
And to follow up, do you expect cooperation from the Biden administration and when it comes to the Justice Department, which is also investigating Hunter Biden? If the DOJ doesn't cooperate, what means do you have at your disposal right now to get the information that they've uncovered on him?
So just on cooperation, well, first, they haven't responded to any of the correspondence, any of the letters, any of the inquiries that came from Ranking Member Comer. Second, they changed the suspicious activity report process and protocol. And third, they've now set up a committee, according to reporter, I don't know, maybe they're in this room, the report in Politico, that said, oh, they've set up a committee to attack us and to come after us. So I don't know, you guess. They're probably not gonna work with this too well, because they certainly haven't. They've done things that really are unprecedented, changing the SARs and setting up that's pretty unprecedented.
Should
Can I ask a
President
follow-up on
Biden
SARS?
be forced to come and testify on Capitol Hill?
I would say one other thing. One of the most important things we can, I guess I've said it a couple times, one of the most important things we can do is do the work that needs to be done so that we can hopefully have a Justice Department that doesn't operate in a political fashion. That's my focus. I think it's everyone's focus. So I think that's pretty darn important to the American people.
Impeachment on the table. A quick follow-up question on that particular point. There's Maine Justice, and then there's Mr. Weiss in Delaware, who, as you know, was appointed by President Trump and initiated this investigation under the previous administration. Just generally, because some of these suggestions that have been made in terms of the investigation moving towards President Biden have not apparently, we haven't uncovered any evidence that is currently being discussed in front of the grand jury in Delaware or in that particular office. Do you have confidence? Forget the larger question of the Biden Justice Department. Do you have confidence that Mr. Weiss is doing a thorough job in his investigation?
All I'm going to say is there shouldn't be politics anywhere. It should be driven by the facts, the law, the Constitution. We've had over 14 whistleblowers come talk to us. Every single one has said at the highest levels of the Justice Department here in D.C., the Washington field office and in the Justice Department here in D.C., that is where the politics are involved. That is where the political decisions are being made. We have a concern with that. That's what we're focused on.
Just to quickly follow on my follow-up, do you have any reason to believe that Maine Justice is attempting to influence the investigation?
All I know is what the whistleblowers have told our office. That's what we're focused on.
And I'll wrap it up with this. We'll all be available throughout the day for questions. I realize that congressional oversight doesn't have a lot of credibility in Washington. I blame Adam Schiff for that. We're going to change that. We're not going to talk about anything unless we have evidence. And that's how I started this out. You're going to be presented with something you haven't been used to over the past 4 years, evidence. And we believe that this is of the utmost importance. I've been watching the panels on CNN, everywhere else, where they say, oh, why are Republicans investigating Hunter Biden? Why are we wasting time doing this? This is an investigation of Joe Biden. I think we've laid out the evidence as to why we feel it's important, and we're going to move forward with that. We're going to do a lot of investigations. We're going to do a lot of probing. We're focused on waste, fraud, and abuse. There's no shortage of that in this federal government, let me assure you that. And that's going to be a priority for this committee. Every member of this committee is going to have priorities in areas where they're focused on in the next Congress. And we're going to try to restore credibility to congressional investigations, and we're going to try to get the backs of the taxpayers, because the taxpayers are the one that's taking it on the chin. Catherine, I'll end with you.
What do you make of the fact that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware has been investigating Hunter Biden and his financial activities for 4 years, and yet no charges have been brought?
I'll say that, and then Jim can end with that. Look, the more you look into Hunter Biden, the more bad things pop up. I don't know if that's the situation. I don't know if he's getting resistance at the Department of Justice. From what I've heard, they're looking into the tax evasion. There's no question he's evaded taxes. That's why he got the Hollywood lawyer to loan him $2 million to try to get caught up with the IRS on his tax bill. But at the end of the day, we're focused on some things that I think every American needs answers to. And one thing that I've learned from talking to a lot of you off the scene here is that I don't think a lot of people realize the evidence that's already out there pertaining to Hunter Biden. And I don't think anybody realized that Joe Biden is in fact involved in a lot of these. He was in fact involved in a lot of these. So the goal from this press conference is to show you, number one, this is an investigation of Joe Biden. We're focused on the bank records. We're very specifically focused on the bank records and the bank violations. And remember, Congress used to have access to the bank violations until Joe Biden changed the rules, which that in itself should be a front page story above the fold. I'm not telling you what to do, but that's pretty odd that he would change the rules to do that. And we laid out why we think it's important. So Jim can follow up.
Let's go. I'm good.
All right, thank you.